guys, we are back talking about the 7 primary emotions. Excuse the glittery Christmas attire. I was feeling a little bit Christmassy today as we are in the second lockdown. I thought there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to be seen, but hey ho, bring a little bit of sparkle into your life. So this week we're going to talk about anger. Anger is one of the emotions that I probably most struggle with, to be honest. When I analyse my own anger, where does my anger come from? Sometimes it comes from being upset, and most of the time it comes from frustration, and it's very difficult to sometimes allow the energy to flow when you feel frustrated or maybe sad. It bottles up and it comes out as anger, which is not nice. It's not nice to get your heart rate up, to start feeling anxiety or causing anxiety to others. So Diane and I are going to talk about what does anger look like, how does it damage and debilitate your life, and ways to try and break that anger triangle of you feeling anger, projecting it to somebody else and potentially ruin somebody else's day. So little steps of how to break down what makes you angry, how to change the way you view anger equals can you change the way you behave also onto yourself and to others.
Yeah, I think there's positive and negatives to anger actually. For example, anger is a stage in grief, isn't it? One of the 5 stages of grief, so we can get very angry with that, and sometimes that's good in the positive sense that can propel us forward through another stage of grief when we're really struggling with something. But your kind of anger that you're talking about when you're like,
that's a different
type of anger, isn't it? Yeah. And I think, and you touched on it then, you said, do you feel frustrated or do you feel sad? And a lot of people I work with anger, underneath that, when you really dig deep and you have a look about what you're really feeling about anger, it's actually sadness. You're feeling really sad about something connected to a loss or frustration, of course, as well, and of course anger looks different in different people, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
And it's like, so some anger is very outwardly obvious, and it might be facial expression, it might be physical, it might be shouting, it might be rage, but then you get the anger that's like the passive-aggressive type, where somebody is very passively angry, but they'll just do a sly comment to somebody, or they'll walk away and do something that's very sly. But your kind of anger is that very loud and out when you want to get it out. So to combat that, do you find that you go in the gym and kind of work through that?
To be honest, because I sound so big-headed but because I have a good relationship with myself, I understand myself. I can feel my mood before I go and have any communication with the outside world. So I'm almost putting a mental note that this is how I'm feeling right now. And with my behaviour, I have a lot of influence on how I make other people feel, especially when I've got a workforce and a family and a very, very busy household here. So I try to analyse my behaviour before I allow that behaviour to become apparent to other people, because I realise that my behaviour is almost like an energy absorber. Everyone around me is like a sponge, and likewise the people that are in my life, I'm like a sponge too. It's not nice being around angry people. What I will try to do, it's not always easy, but I'll try to have some time out. So I'll literally have 15 minutes where I will go, if I have got the opportunity to sit in my car, or go into my office, or go upstairs to my dressing room and have 15 minutes of time out, me and YouTube, that's it. I need to zone myself out. I'm fully aware that I can be, very unpleasant being around someone who's angry. It's not nice to be on the receiving end, and sometimes if I was to really, go full pelt at someone because of my own anger issues, that would be really negative on my relationship with the people I've got around me. So I have to check in with myself, and most of the time it's frustration, most of the time it's related to, I'd say, work. I mean, sometimes it can be your personal life as well, but most of the time it's probably work related. But I'm checking in with myself all the time because I know my capabilities, and when I feel really frustrated and I can't quite get across, or things aren't being done quick enough for me, because I got 100 miles an hour, that's when I get really frustrated, but I'm still very aware of my behaviour and influence and effect on other people. No one wants to hang around with an angry person. I mean, we are only human. I can't sit here and be like this, you know, Buddhist monk who's always in this transitional, wonderful, meditative state. That is not the essence of a human being. We're all bundles of energy, and sometimes we give off this wonderful euphoric energy, and sometimes the energy can be very negative and very sad. But I always make sure that the people around me shouldn't be affected by my own anger or my own frustration. And if I do upset someone, I'm the first to say, do you know what, I am really sorry. That's not you, this is me. This is how I'm feeling, and I shouldn't have taken out on you. So I recognise it, and that's half of the key, isn't it? To recognise it. A lot of times when I sit in the car, and that's like my time to switch off, and I try not to speak to people so I can just have my time and gather my thoughts. I actually look at like the world and think there's a lot of angry people out there. I don't want to be one of them, you know, and the way you behave to another human being, it's instrumental to how we live our lives. If we had more happy people giving out more positive energy, it'd make everywhere a happy place. I know it sounds really cliche, but it's true. I wake up in the morning, I start being really negative. I come downstairs, I'm negative with my staff, they'll go home, they'll be negative with their partners, and then they can go home, and then it just spreads and it spreads and it spreads. And I don't want that type of situation, so I do try to check in with myself. Just have some time out, zone out, me and YouTube, do 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of going stroking the dogs, go and get myself in the car, load the car up with the dogs, and I'm off. And that's just my time to switch off, reboot myself, and get back in the room. It's easier said than done, but no one wants to hang around with an angry person.
No. And I think in my experience, you know, angry people can be people who obviously can't express themselves properly, you know, and it's like the passive-aggressive pendulum. It's like people that aren't assertive and confident in themselves, so they haven't found a confident way to explore and explain how they're really feeling. They either go swing to the passive side or they swing to the aggressive side, and what we want is obviously to sit in the middle, to be assertive about something where we convey how we're really feeling in a very adult and sort of effective manner. And that's quite difficult to do, particularly in today's society, you know. And what people tend to do is they shout about something and people end up not listening, or as you say, Ampika, people don't want to be around that.
No, it's not nice.
Or they swing to the other side and they're very passive and they don't know how to express, and they become very timid or very shy. And what we want is that nice balance in the middle of being assertive, being confident about how we feel. You know, we talked last week about jealousy, another key emotion, and it's like that is all about, like with anger, learning to know who we are, what pushes our buttons, and then how we behave that. You know, we're made up as humans of three components. It's how we feel, and then it's how we think and how we behave, you know. And when we're really in touch with our emotions and how we feel about things, then we can think that through and not act on our emotions, and then we can learn how to behave in a certain way. So we feel, we think, and then we behave, you know. So learning to be assertive in the middle means that we don't vent our anger, or we're not passive either, so we don't say how we feel, which then obviously sits underneath and acts like a pressure cooker and will come out in unhealthy ways. So like you were saying before about when you feel angry, channel that in healthy ways, get that out in healthy ways, be it by go for a walk, take your dogs out, go to the gym, you know, speak to somebody you find incredibly calming, write your anger down in a journal and try and work out what it is, what's underneath that anger, because it will be something you can't express properly, and it's learning how to do that in a very assertive way and get your point across. You know?
Very much so. It's quite nice actually, because my boyfriend very rarely gets angry about anything. He is like always super calm, and I'm like, but this has happened today and that's happened. He is like, I don't know, he's like a little Buddha that sits there who's very, very together, and he's very, very calm and tranquil. But maybe that's an age thing, I don't know. I think probably I am quite a fiery character, and I'll always be fiery, but it's channeling, like you say, it's channeling that energy into something productive. You can have all the fire, all the passion, all the anger, but where do you put it? Do you make something creative and beautiful with it?
Exactly.
Or are you going to burn yourself out and burn other people out around you? So I just try to hold back and put the outlet somewhere and do something productive for me. It's not easy, but as you get to understand yourself, and it goes back to journaling, like how you're feeling. If you don't know who you are, then you are never going to understand yourself, and you're never going to make the right changes to live a freer life. We all talk about being mindful, we all talk about meditation, but what do you actually do? Do you actually know who you are and what your trigger points are? And deep down, a lot of the times that you feel any of these emotions, if you have a quiet word with yourself, you know where these emotions come from. Whether it's childhood, whether it's being in a relationship that's not very fulfilling, whether it's problems with your children, whether it's problems of loneliness and isolation, we know where those problems are deep rooted. And it's time to wake up and make changes. And you can only make changes if you get to understand yourself. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Anger is a difficult one to master, but if you start to understand yourself, know what your trigger points are, get all that energy, instead of projecting it to someone, go and have some time out on your own and release it. Release it. No one wants to hang around with an angry person, or no one wants to be hanging around with an angry person. So there's only one person that can make a difference in your life, and that is you. I hope you have enjoyed it. So if you are interested in subscribing to our channel, please click on the button below. We will see you every Sunday at 6 p.m. and give us a shout out, anything you want to talk about, direct message myself, direct message the wonderful Diane Swaine, and leave us a comment if you're enjoying what you are seeing and hearing on our comments button down below. Thank you, guys.
Have a good week and stay well. See you next week.